Great to see you. How is your week going, buddy?
What do we call it? A Victory Tuesday?
Yes, there you go.
Yeah.
Hey, congratulations to you guys. I'm honored to be part of this thing here, man. Award last week all the way down from Dustin and Mitch and both, obviously, all you guys. Brandon in there. And no, that's a great honor.
You are a big part of it, too, though.
Yes,
I'm serious. So I mean that when I say it. You guys work hard at it, very hard.
But, Olin congratulated us. I think he's a big part of it. Guys like you, Dave, people tune in just to hear you.
Even Biggs.
I mean, Big Z is an appointment radio guy.
Even
Big Z's the best.
Whatever.
We are blessed to have so many
Brandon, nice job.
Great people.
Bruce.
Yeah.
The staples. People get used to,
Yes.
during the season, a little bit of a rhythm, and that's nice, and you're a big part of that every week.
It's more a tribute to you than to us.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because you're in high demand as we're I mean, Pitt's got a big game this week, and so that's something we like to tap into.
Are we
that
drinking
insight.
coffee? Guys, have we decided on coffee?
I'm all in. Dustin, you in on some coffee?
We're in.
Okay, Pitt, and he's giving me
Dave,
These are the greatest.
That is your
That's
heart.
your team. That's your team. You don't get points.
How many
That's your
points?
team. No
Oh,
points.
well,
That's
look
his
at
team.
this.
Wow.
Wow.
They're not being coached.
He said the same thing to me when it was the roles were reversed.
I did.
Said the same thing.
And I did, and I paid up, and you paid up. Okay, we got coffee on that.
You know what's awesome is we get paid and we don't wait
I
for
like it
anything.
either way. That's a great.
Hey,
awesome.
let me ask you guys a question. Get this thing going. I'm watching that whatever it was last night, Green Bay and Philadelphia.
Whatever that was.
Trying to stay awake.
Soccer game.
And I'm thinking,
Hey,
I'm
sorry.
I never.
You
It's not that I never thought I would say this, but I'm so excited that how about Caleb? Who would you rather have at quarterback? The Green Bay guy or Caleb
Jordan
Williams?
Love or Caleb?
How about that? Jordan Love or Caleb Williams?
You know, Dave, you bring up a great point.
At the end of the game,
Let's
there's no doubt in my
take a
mind.
step back and look at the division. Now you want to rank the quarterbacks. It's a much different list than it looked like back in September.
Yeah.
And now you wonder.
You know what I want to do now? I want to rank the play callers.
Oh,
Yes.
wow. Yeah, well, Ben.
That's another good question. Dan Campbell took it away from his guy. So he's wearing glasses
all
now,
I'm saying.
so he can see the play sheet.
Yeah.
and because he's
And
calling the plays.
the flower's suddenly
The
in
flower
trouble.
is wilting.
The flower's wilting.
Yes.
And Kevin
bloom is off the
O'Connell,
rose, so to
Kevin
speak.
O'Connell, all he can do,
is
whisper to some quarterbacks that play elsewhere
and
now.
pick the wrong guy.
Yeah.
So you got your guy, Ben Johnson, the best play caller in the division, and your guy, Caleb Williams, dare I say, second to Jared Goff.
For 2-minute drills, that's what we're talking about. End of the game. I
Yes.
mean, you got plenty of time, and I'm telling you now, Caleb he's amazing. The guy really is. He finds a way to make plays. I think he's as dangerous now. I did not, obviously, last year with being sacked more than anybody in the NFL. I didn't believe this then. I knew he was a heck of an athlete, going back to Anacostia High and following him all the way through Oklahoma and USC. But right now, if I'm defending him, his feet concern me.
Bingo.
As much as his arm.
But Dave, you called this, and you established the bar and the criteria for quarterbacks once they get to the point where down 10, 6 minutes or less in the fourth quarter to go.
Yep.
Can he bring you back?
We said that way before we drafted
Way before
him.
he was drafted. And now he has done that 4 times this year. Maybe not 10 down, but 4 comeback
Good point. Yep.
drives, and they have 6 victories. When you have a quarterback that has the it factor, you say, what does that mean? That's what it means. You got a guy who you never feel like you're out of it in the fourth quarter, and now it's becoming habit for him.
Yeah, and
Huge.
And as a head coach, let me just I just went from defensive coordinator to head coach. There were a lot of games where we had a 10-point lead, and I would look at my quarterback and I would give him like the turn the key. It's done. Shut it down. Okay, shut it down.
Yes.
Game's over. They're not going to come back on us on 10 points. That ain't going to happen, okay? And that's not the case with Chicago. You are playing 60 minutes of football with this kid at quarterback. I mean, it's a different deal now. It's exciting.
It is exciting.
Wow.
It's stunning the turnaround that we've seen from the Bears in terms of the offensive yards that they're able to produce. They were, they were at the bottom of the league. They were 30th in the league, I believe, last year. They've been in the late 20s and 30 for about 10 years. They're now number 4 in the league with Ben Johnson there, and with, as you say, Caleb able to pull the trigger.
Top 10 offense. You're right, Mully.
It's ridiculous.
You know, I would like to, and I think Caleb would be the only one that could answer this, because Ben and those guys, I mean, I'd reach out to Ben or one of those coaches up there, but I don't think they could give an honest answer. He's the same guy. I mean, he didn't get faster in the last year, you know, but last year he got sacked more than any quarterback in the league.
Yes.
And now those two outside, you have to appreciate the two guys who were coming off the edge for the Giants. Thibodeau
No
and
question.
Burns, those guys are not big, stiff pass rushers.
No.
These guys are great athletes, and I mean great athletes. They could probably play linebacker.
It's amazing, though, Dave,
Right?
and you know this, how fast one can run when being chased out
Yeah.
of fear.
Yeah.
And also when you're running somewhere with conviction rather than being tentative. And he is turning the corner with conviction. He knows where he wants to
Yeah.
go, and he's committing to the run rather than looking down the field. His eyes are up, but he's also a more willing runner at this point.
All right, we've got to take a quick time out. We should come back talking about that, about the reduction of sacks, whether it's a tribute to the improved offensive line, to the better knowledge of the quarterback, getting rid of the ball, or pulling out of things. He claims that he's worked out, he's worked harder. He showed great strength in terms of not being sacked last week
Yep.
and pulling out of some of these things and twisting around. He's obviously a hell of an athlete. We got to get into that. We'll talk about that next. And Dave, what do you attribute the fact that Caleb Williams took 68 sacks a year ago and now is relatively clean, coming off a game in which he ran out of any trouble, probably ran away from maybe as many as 3 or 4 sacks, if not more. But he's not getting sacked. He had a clean game again.
Yeah, and he's showing strength. God, you mentioned that. I mean, you know, I had a flashback of when I was at the Dolphins. We were playing the Steelers, and Ben Roethlisberger spinning out of bouncing off of a sack, or had potential.
He
sack.
was like the size of an offensive guard.
But
I mean,
Caleb's done that.
Yes.
You know what? I wonder this. A lot of these quarterbacks get into the NFL, and I don't think it was a factor with Lamar Jackson, but the point I'm making is a lot of these guys that are good enough athletes to do what Caleb has been doing, let's be real, they get hung up on, I don't want to be known as a running quarterback.
Right.
I want to stay in the pocket and be Dan Marino or Troy Aikman, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or they don't want to get that label. And a lot of these guys, I know for a fact, I won't get into the head coaches, quarterbacks that are playing up, made us think that, I'm not going to run. I don't want to run every time. I want to stay in the pocket and be an NFL quarterback from the standpoint of throwing the football.
I get that, because he also, coming into the league, was known more for that elite arm talent.
Right.
That he had at USC and Oklahoma. So he didn't feel like he needed to rely upon his legs. What's happened is the evolution is that maybe the accuracy issues that he's encountered, the inaccuracy issues, has forced him to find other ways to be resourceful. And this is maybe not by design as much as necessity. He's making something out of nothing.
Do you guys see any, and don't, listeners, please don't go crazy. I'm not saying he is. I see some Patrick Mahomes in Caleb Williams, from the escapability, the crazy type passes, the athleticism. He's got I'm always trying to put him in a box. He's not Lamar. He's not he's not Justin Herbert. You know what I mean? I'm trying to put guys in He's
not the big arm, not the big.
Not Josh Allen.
He's not as elusive as Lamar. Somewhere in between. But I think your resourcefulness issue is what you're talking about, and the ability to throw off platform the way Mahomes does.
Yeah. He's got some of that.
I mean, I probably would go there if a couple of those passes into the end zone had been caught. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was a very. I thought he played great in the game. I think what's helping him too is he's not holding the ball as long. He has an understanding of this system, and he is dumping down every once in a while, and he is doing the kind of things that Ben Johnson is trying to coach into him.
Yep.
And that is a good thing to see. And I think the very fact, and I don't know if both guys are really connecting and everything is seashells and balloons, or if there is a little bit of, I'm being told to do this,
creative friction.
You don't know.
Doesn't hurt.
But as long as they're watching tape together every day, as long as you hear the head coach say he understands the way I'm thinking when I'm calling a play, that to me is just music to my ears, because it means they're working on the same thing and they're improving. And frankly, I think we're seeing it. Yeah. That was a game where you could say he won that game, maybe with his legs, but he took over that game and won that game.
Absolutely.
That we haven't said that about every game this year.
He was a win because of guy on Sunday.
No question.
Can I make another point? And just kind of off of what you just said, Mully, that the point that Ben Johnson is making an impact with him and he's getting better. David was talking about it earlier. Well, let's look at the team thing, because I take the play-by-plays. I'm keeping track of the things that will win and lose a game that nobody wants to talk about. Everybody wants to talk about the quarterback, absolutely. But I look at the penalties. Let's talk there.
Okay.
Three penalties.
We had three penalties. That's improvement. It wasn't long ago. We were sitting here, guys. They were double digits, right? We were one of the worst in the league.
2 games ago was 11.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. And we improved in the red zone. We were 3 for 4 in the red zone. They were 1 for 4. We beat them on the turnover battle. And we got 1 turnover from them,
yes,
but we did not turn the ball over.
Yes.
These are things that, from a coach's perspective, that you look at and you say, those are the things the players, please understand, guys, that we got to win these categories before we can start talking about the big picture stuff.
That's a great point, Dave. Look at the Vikings as a point of comparison. They lose a game at home to the Ravens, which was close, 27-19. They had 8 false start penalties.
Wow.
It was the more false start penalties than any home team since 2009. And you see how that leads to self-destruction. The Bears aren't killing themselves so they can take advantage of luck when it appears. And they did get some breaks.
Yes.
But they created their own luck by knocking the quarterback out of the game and forcing that fumble at that point in the game.
Yep.
This segment with Coach Wannstedt is sponsored by Chicago Roofing Contractors.org, providing all-weather protection for your business. And Dave, it's interesting because here we are waking up this morning, and we knew the result last night. A bad football game for Jordan Love, as we mentioned earlier. You start talking about quarterback play, and now you're looking at the play caller with the Packers, which I don't think anyone's ever thought wasn't good play calling from the Flower. But now all of a sudden, Packers are taking a step back, 20 points combined in 2 weeks.
Lost 2 in a row.
Every throw's 50 yards.
Yes.
The quarterback's
right.
For them to complete a pass, he's got to hold the ball for, and I know they got to tight it.
He's running for his life, and he's dipping back in the pocket, and they're
stars
sacking him.
It's stars and 1, stars and 2.
Yes.
Before anybody
He's making some questionable decisions.
And I agree, he's not playing good. You know what? Tony Wise just texted me, and I got to mention this. He just texted me and said, "Hey," he said, "I used to watch Luther Burden's grandfather play basketball in Albany when I was younger. He was a great player at Philip Schindler High School." How about that? Now, I don't know what that means with our show, but Tony...
It's hilarious.
Yeah. So he's
got a good opinion. He's been around long enough to judge everything about the kid.
There you go. And Burden needs to play more, too. Maybe that's what...
I think Luther Burden's grandfather was in the ABA, if I remember the story right. Remember the preseason story they did during one of the preseason games?
That was the longest
It was a very long story.
I've ever seen.
But didn't they reference his grandfather being in the American Basketball Association?
Yeah, I think
so.
You're right.
There's a lineage there that Tony might be onto something, and you can see that athleticism in Luther Burden III, Dave. That route that he ran, the deep stop and coming back, Not only did he run a great route, he caught the ball, and then he was hard to bring down.
Well, and this is probably the 10th time that I said that. Not literally, probably 4 though. That he was of all the receivers in the draft this year, he was second behind the kid from Arizona State, the number 1 pick, with yards after the catch. He was known for, yes, great hands, good speed, toughness, but yards after the catch was kind of his deal coming out of Missouri, and I think that was an indication. You better tackle him or he's going in the end zone.
He's caught whatever the number was, 16 of 18 throws to him.
That's pretty
impressive. You got to get him more throws, period, end of story. And I think Colson Loveland has done a good job, and he's catching. Boy, there was one that was way over his head, and he got up and got it. I don't know anybody that can catch that.
Even the one at the end was behind him.
Yes.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, he had a twist behind him and make a fingertip. That was a fingertip catch almost.
Great. It was a great play. You're so right. Dave, do you think with Jordan Love, and I know we don't care about them, I'm just wondering, they lost Tucker Kraft, the tight end. Is that what he was missing yesterday? Because you're right. They were throwing the ball down the field like crazy. They didn't seem to have the check down guy.
But I would always look at that and say, Kraft is going to give you maybe the Loveland or the Komet catch up over the guy, come down with the ball.
Like Gronk.
Yeah, you might not have you might have lost that. But for check downs and high percentage, little bootlegs and throw it to the tight end, which we master as well as anybody, they've got guys on the roster.
I think Jordan Love also has been a guy that has not been afraid to go deep on occasion. Like, he will throw it up and let his receivers try to make a play.
Too much for me.
Probably a little much.
Right.
Yeah.
You're right.
And so there's not been that kind of rhythm with the play caller, and Love has not been efficient in making good decisions. As a result, the Packers lost 2 in a row.
Olin made a comment in the postgame, Dave, something you kind of mentioned earlier, the idea that when a team is going poorly, when you are a bad football team and you're having a struggle on your year, all you got to do is wait for them to melt down and they'll give the game to you.
Yep.
And I think that happened with the Giants, both with coaching decisions, as it turned out, being down and settling for a short field goal, being right on the knocking on the door of the end zone, and then the shanked punt. I mean, the end of the game, all you need is a punt. And I know both teams went 1 and 4 on 4th downs. Everyone was going for it on 4th down because the wind was a factor and the kicking game was impacted by it. But that shanked punt
20
left
some
the
yards.
Bears. It left them kind of at midfield, and all of a sudden you're thinking they're going to win the game instead of they got to get a field goal.
Right. No, I think it's just believing that. I remember the year that we won 1-15, if you can believe that, at Dallas. And I make reference because we would come out of the blocks, guys, and we would start good. I mean, we were clicking on offense, on defense. I always use the expression, we came out of the locker room ready to go. Mm-hmm. But then in the second half, and it's a little bit of combination of believing you're going to win or I'm going to screw something up, Mully, I think is what you're referring to.
Yes.
And a little bit has to do with some talent in certain areas.
Yes.
So, it's a combination. But Ben's got these guys believing. I mean, he's got us believing.
They're believing. We're believing.
We're believing.
All is well that ends well, but let's go back to the beginning of the game. They came out in a way I didn't expect them to come out. They're playing against one of the worst rushing defenses in the NFL. I didn't think that the emphasis on the running game was obvious as much as I expected it to be. Did you notice the same thing?
It was under center, play action pass. That was kind of the emphasis, getting them. And that's probably the one part of our offense that I think everybody, I know I am, waiting on is and I hate to reference Detroit, but it was Ben's offense.
Yeah.
The play action pass off of the run, hit the receiver running full speed and go 50 yards for a touchdown.
And that takes a lot of accuracy.
Yeah.
You got to hit them in stride.
Yep.
They don't hold up. They don't reach back. They catch it and they're gone.
Yeah. That's the one part of our offense is still yet.
Maybe Luther Burden can answer that
maybe
question
maybe
for
it's
you.
Burden. Maybe it's this week we hit a couple of those. And
by the way, Luther Burden's grandfather was Tiki Burden, Luther Tiki Burden. He played for the ABA's Virginia Squires.
Wow, good point. You're right on.
I was wondering where we lost
you and
you
Tony.
to.
Well, Tony just did. Tony didn't want to. He just threw it out there to see if you do
I'm
your
just trying
homework.
to do
you know?
the research. Yeah, there we go. Ask and answer. Dave, when you talk about the play caller's relationship with Caleb Williams, in this case, Caleb and Ben Johnson, we talked about maybe some creative friction or whatever they're doing is working. Do you recall having, whether it was your play caller or the head coach quarterback relationship, maybe a frosty relationship with someone, or was it always you wanted to be good cop, good cop? Or how does that whole thing work? Because you wonder how whatever Ben Johnson is doing, Caleb Williams is responding to. I don't know if it's a positive affirmation or maybe it's the kind of thing that, during the week he doesn't get the kind of feedback he's looking for. Whatever he's doing or not doing is working.
Publicly, every word Ben Johnson says is very positive. Even when he says there's a play or two that he's probably upset about, which means the coach is probably upset about.
That seems surprising, though.
I think he's doing a very good job.
Yes, he is.
Of kind of.
I love this comment about the receivers dropping the ball.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah, well,
you don't obsess with it. You don't hammer it home. You point it out and you move on.
But I promise you, in the receiver room, you don't have a team meeting and put the tape on, and point out the 6 drops or whatever we had. What you do as a receiver, you sit in there with the receiver coach and he goes over it. Because there are some things, maybe your hands or maybe the feet or maybe you're not getting your head around quick enough, whatever it might be.
Or it's freezing out and you haven't been doing that and you're going to have to get used to it.
And the ball's a little bit damp, wet because it was snowing.
Heavy.
Yep. So, all those things. But as a receiver coach behind closed doors, I promise you they went through those things. And if you're a pro, I've had receivers doing that. And what they do, all of a sudden you go out there Wednesday and maybe they're having a problem catching the ball over their left shoulder. I'm just using an example.
Yes.
Well, all of a sudden Wednesday they're out there when practice is over and they got the machine or they got someone and they're catching another 25, 30 balls over their left shoulder. So it's not a team thing. It's not a big thing, but they handle it internally and I thought Ben handled it perfectly, to be quite honest with you,
Well, is this something that they need to address? They need to, or they have to eliminate.
They haven't had a chance. Neither team did and the other team dropped balls too. That the weather kind of caught up on us all.
How about that?
Let's be real, right?
Crazy.
And what'll happen when it gets cold? Now, as it becomes colder, they go in, and I don't know what Ben's routine will be, but I know how we did it. I know how Green Bay did it back in the day. Detroit did it. If you were playing if you had a bubble, although I didn't have a bubble, if you had a bubble, what you would do, an indoor, you would go inside. And I remember talking to Mike Holmgren about this when we got one my last year. They would go inside for all their specialty work, the individual and the bags and the drills. And then they would go out in the elements for the teamwork when they were going to run the plays that they were running in the game. So the guys wouldn't be outside freezing for 3 hours, but you would be out there for an hour where you had to deal with the wind and the wet and the cold and all that. The Bears didn't have a chance. Neither team had a chance. Everybody got caught off guard with this cold so they didn't have any practice at that. So is that an excuse? No, but it's a fact. It does make a difference if you're not used to it.
So you go to Minnesota this week. Obviously, it's indoors. I'm just curious, when you think about that game, Dave, how do you feel about what the Bears can do, about some of the injury issues that remain, some of the uncertainty as to who's healthy and who isn't? What do you believe happens at Minnesota? Is this one where you can take some revenge over a loss earlier in the year, given the way they're playing, given the struggles the quarterbacks had, or is that...
Is Edwards going to be back this week?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Iffy.
Yeah.
It's more his hamstring than it is the club that he is likely to play with.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So you never know.
There was a definite drop-off, I think, with Edwards and Sewell.
Yes.
We all saw that. And Sewell's a good player.
You know who the Vikings are going to be without, though? Jonathan Grenard.
Yeah.
That's a big loss.
Oh, really?
It looks like they're going to be without him. Yeah.
Wow.
And if
Could be.
if the quarterback, who they might be without soon enough, there's been rumors already that Flores could be the guy the Giants hire. And if that were the case, I say, go in peace and good luck.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it'd be great to get him out of the division.
Yeah.
Because they're going to come from
You hope
all
he's
angles.
distracted Sunday.
There you go. Hope
he-
he's interviewing.
He's gonna have a scheme where they're gonna contain the outside. They're not gonna let Caleb get outside. Caleb will have some runs inside, but Flores is more of because he's such a big pressure. Everybody says pressure. No. He plays pressure and plays zone. He's not a 50% man team. I think the Bears this week. When I look at them, they got to be able. Their secondary has played a lot better than I thought they would. I mean, CD, is that what we're calling him?
Yes.
CD. I mean, he's brought a lot to the table.
He has.
And I think Dennis Allen. Think about how they're using him. We're saying, he caused a fumble. He's got 3 sacks in 2 weeks or whatever
Yes.
he's got. Why is that happening? Because Dennis Allen is not putting him in a position where he's got to know every check, whole defense, and he's putting in a position that if you're blitzing, you could show up tomorrow, Mully, and they say, when we call your number, Mully blitz, you're going to blitz. You know what I mean? So I'm simplifying it, but Dennis Allen's doing a good job of using him in specific areas where
He had 9 tackles. He led them in tackles in that game because of what you're saying.
That's great.
He just, you feel him on the tape.
Football
Absolutely.
player.
Watching the game.
Absolutely.
Yes.
He's made an impact. And, and obviously Stevenson's competing, so the secondary, Brisker made some plays. They're going to have to match up. That's going to be the problem this week because Addison didn't play, the one receiver. All the receivers are back, Jefferson and Addison, correct?
Yeah,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
JJ will throw you the ball.
Yeah, he'll throw you the ball.
JJ,
but the point I'm making is
he's not throwing the ball near them. It's hard to catch the ball if a guy can't get it to you.
the point I was trying to make was Addison was suspended in the first game.
Right.
Yes.
That's correct.
He didn't play, and you got to be. And I'm not saying it just because he's a Pitt guy, but you got to be careful with this guy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You can't go out
right.
there and too many times just with Jefferson on the other side, and it's not as drastic as Cincinnati. Okay. But it's a little bit of that mentality that these two guys got 2 receivers that can knock it out of the ballpark.
Good comp, Dave.
Right?
Yep.
They can knock it out of the ballpark anytime,
Great stuff, Coach. Thank you so much. Always all
right, guys, that was good.
Great session.
Good luck to your Panthers.
Yes.
Hey, and good luck to the Irish. We don't care. We're gonna.
We don't care. We win anyway.
Hey, Dustin, leave your money on the desk in there, okay? Aaron Donald's jersey's retiring. Game day, come on. What
Big
are we
moment.
talking
Gonna
about?
get fired up.